Thank you for joining us for today's session. This is one of my favorite sessions that we offer. Today we have Tony Ruth, and he's going to be presenting on some of the upcoming releases that we have and what we can expect in 2016, but also what we achieved in 2015. Tony Ruth is a huge part of the iFormBuilder family, and he has his feet in the ground and knows almost everything that's going on with the iFormBuilder platform. So today he's going to give us just a little sneak peek on what we can expect. Okay, so upcoming iFormBuilder events. We have another certification course starting in February. So if you haven't been certified, or if you're not aware of what our certification program is, it is our FormBuilder certification, and it is a 2-day course, 4 hours each day, and it allows you to really go at a fast pace learning the platform. There's assignments included, and it does take up some time, but it's hugely beneficial. And I actually see some of you who are on this call have been certified, and hopefully you agree that it is a great feature and training to be a part of. The next thing I want to mention to you is on May 11th, we have our iFormBuilder Power User Summit. And in the PDF that we send over to you, it'll include a link to that event. And that is a free event for Wednesday, but we have certification courses happening the 2 days before. It's a great time to come and meet other customers who are using the platform and to learn from them, as well as to kind of get to know our team a little bit better and to ask some of those questions that you haven't been able to ask yet for whatever reason it may be. So like I mentioned, Tony's going to be presenting for us today, and just a little recap here. It just tells you a little bit about Tony. While talking to him and while he presents, I'm sure you'll get to know him a little bit better. At this point, I'm going to hand over the reins, and Tony, it's your show.
Well, Barrett, thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be back in 2016 and to walk through the things that we accomplished in 2015, as well as set the stage for what the new year brings to us. This is always a fun presentation to give, and I like a conversational type of presentation. So I will stop periodically throughout to ask if there's any questions, and as Barrett mentioned, if there's anything that you'd like to have more clarification on, feel free to throw a question in the chat there. Barrett will field those as she can, and always interrupt if need be. So with that, let's just jump right in, and we're going to start with a recap of what 2015 brought. And so I think the one thing that I want to point out is that we had 12 scheduled releases, and this is actually one of the things we're pretty proud about. So being able to constantly deliver new features, updates, bug fixes, whatever it may be, in a very continuous fashion. So the idea here is that there's new things that come out all the time, and effectively what we have tried to do is basically break these down into smaller release segments, and that allows us to just really deliver these things as they become available, rather than try to bundle them up into, let's say, a yearly or annual release where you're waiting 6 months or whatever it may be for that that one feature or bug fix to come out. So we did have 12 scheduled releases that we rolled out in the year of 2015. Really hit about one every month, except for when we did the iOS 9 release. That took about another 3 weeks longer than our typical release cycle. Anyway, some of the more notable things that we accomplished are the filtered option list. And so for those of you who are familiar, we have several different option list-driven components: single select, multi-select, inline select. The multi-select and the drop-down single select now come with a search capability. So for those of you with longer lists, rather than having to scroll through and try to find what you're looking for, you can now just key in a few letters at the top of the interface, and it will start to refine the list for you in real time. So I know that's been a nice advancement for those folks who do have those longer lists, and hopefully if you're not using that, you'll upgrade the software and you'll be able to take advantage. One of the other things that we knocked out in 2015 was basically a rewrite of our API. And so the most notable upgrade, if you will, is that in API v6, we allow for users to request data from the system and pass in what we call field grammar. And so by doing by basically doing so, we let you request back only the information that you're interested in, versus in previous days, we had a record feed come back and it had all of your data. So let's say there's 100 questions in your form. If you ask for the record feed for that form, you get back 100 fields. In API version 6, you can actually say, hey, I want the record feed back, but only give me the 7 fields that I'm interested in. And so this saves processing time on the server side, as well as makes it a little bit easier to consume the result, because you don't have to parse away the things that you're not interested in. You truly just get back the data that you want to work with. So there's some other advancements there, as well as introducing group APIs. We've also increased the limit in terms of how many records can be returned in a single request. So previously in 5.1, we had that capped at 100, and now in version 6, that is up to 1,000. So we're able to expand the limit of the records because of the processing being better. We also introduced something called private media container, and basically what this boils down to is media that's uploaded to the iFormBuilder cloud is either stored in one of 3 locations: our default location, which is Cloud Files, your Box or Dropbox account. And so with our default Cloud Files location, the media that's uploaded there generates a public link that can basically be accessed by anybody that has the link. There were a number of folks that expressed concerns about some projects they were working on where that was not ideal. And so we introduced a new option for our built-in Cloud Files, which is basically a private media container. So this comes with some basically, if you upload media into the private container, your email reports and some other functionality that you may have relied on with, let's say, some basic integrations, won't be able to pull those files, because it's not a matter of just having the link and being able to view that asset. You actually now need to request that media file using a wraparound API. If you're looking at this information in the iFormBuilder admin console or even on the device, we take care of the wraparound API for you. But for those folks who had concerns, we did introduce this option to allow them to continue using media elements, but also rest assured that if the link was exposed, that the media couldn't be retrieved by anybody with the link. I'm going to stop just for a second. Barrett, is my audio coming through clear?
Yes, Tony, it's coming through crystal clear, and everything sounds good.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So another advancement that we introduced was a concept called subform batch mode. And the idea here was we understand when using subforms with a multiple paging setup that there's a number of scenarios where you have to repeat that same subform maybe, I don't know, 100 times or so. And basically the workflow that you had to follow is you would touch the subform element, create the new record, fill out all the details, press done, and then you would have to press the plus button again to start a new subform record. Using the subform batch mode reference ID, we effectively streamline the creation of the new record so that anytime you press the done button on the subform with the batch mode enabled, it will actually save that record and then start a new record for you. So what this does is it saves 1 click each time that you have to do a new subform record. Ultimately, if there's 100 records that you're creating, that's 100 clicks that you're saved just right there. So a nice little upgrade for those folks who are creating multiple subform records. Make sure you take a look into this. It should save you a lot of time. Barrett, if you could just hit the mute button on your audio there. We're getting some Skype message feedback.
That is not coming from me. I was actually set mine as mute as well. So, and I'm not Skyping. So let's see if there's anyone else who may have been logged in that's coming through.
Okay. Okay, no worries. We'll work through it. So in addition to the subform batch mode, we introduced a new widget called the counter widget. And so quite simply, you'll have a plus and a minus button, and basically you can count things. So we also have a way that lets you set the count increment to something other than 1. So for some reason, if you wanted to count by halves or quarters or even by twos, you have the flexibility to do so. So if you haven't taken advantage of that and you have a need, make sure you take a look into the form builder and add a counter widget to your form to see how that works for you. Another, I would say, honestly, maybe the biggest advancement of the year is the thing that we call Package Builder. And so Package Builder, for those who aren't familiar, allows you to effectively bundle up one-to-many forms and all the resources that they need to work in the field into either a downloadable file or a file which is saved on the cloud. And so the big key thing with Package Builder is not only, one, does it promote sharing of forms and resources, but two, for larger groups who are effectively deploying the same sets of forms across many projects, this turns setup into really a few clicks rather than previous days where you either had to share forms and then copy those shared forms and try to do cleanup for references which were duplicated. And quite honestly, it was a tedious process that was begging for an improvement. So we invested some time and energy into putting together a package builder. For those who have used it, I'm sure you love it. For those who haven't used it, make sure you check it out. It definitely can change the way that you build forms. So we're going to cruise on over to the second list of 2015. We took some time to look into some issues where folks who had, let's say, hundreds or even thousands of records stored locally were seeing the performance degrade on their devices. This kind of goes back to that multiple subform record scenario I was describing, where the subform paging variable was useful. So groups that were collecting a couple hundred subform records were seeing that as that subform record view was transitioning, it was getting slower and slower and slower, almost to the point of unusability. So not anything that you can really see other than the device doesn't slow down and should keep its responsiveness even when you have thousands of records stored locally. We did also ramp up our focus on application security, and basically we took the offensive on ourselves. So we investigated some tools, and effectively we try to break into our own application using some popular software that's available on the web, following the OWASP standards, and basically trying to tighten things up, where vulnerabilities existed. So this is something that we take very seriously. It's an ever-changing landscape, and this isn't just a scan once and done. We're scanning our software every release and even every month, just to make sure there's no new vulnerabilities that have popped up in between releases, or the code that we've rolled out is missing these things. So not anything that you necessarily see, but just know that we are spending time and energy there, and we'll continue to spend time and energy in 2016. So another, I guess, large enhancement which wraps around the API version 6 is this concept called stored filters. And stored filters effectively allows you to build a filter which goes beyond just a parent level form. It actually can cascade through the whole entire form structure. And this is using the field grammar that we introduced in the version 6 of the API. This goes hand in hand with this new table edit view that we built as well. So the stored filters is really built for the table edit view, but has two purposes. With the stored filters, you can actually take the field grammar that gets created from that, and you can throw it into your integration scripts for calling data out of the system. A number of folks have found this very helpful when using iFormBuilder with Clipfolio. And so effectively, creating stored filters is multi-purpose use. The table edit view, which connects to the stored filters, is basically a new view that we introduced that allows for editing one-to-many records in I would say, a much more friendly interface. So for those who are familiar working with Excel, you can basically highlight any cell, key in the data that you want to replace the current data with, and that that information is saved. You can drag one value across many cells and update all of them at one shot. So if you haven't explored these two features yet, I would encourage you to take a look at the documentation and knowledge base and see how that can help you clean your data up, or even find things that you're looking for in a streamlined fashion. The last few things that we were able to knock out in the 2015 year was basically adopting iOS 9 and doing a refresh for the client interface. And we had a major emphasis on the map side that we had, or the map interfaces that we had on both the collect and the manage side of the application. So for those folks who are running iOS 9 and have our latest client installed, you'll be prompted actually with a message which says, would you like to upgrade to the new interface? And we would suggest that you actually do adopt that change. We think there's some good enhancements there, and you should be able to take advantage of the map functions. Basically, there's much more functionality there than there was years prior.
Tony, can you give a couple more details on that? Like what those updates, like what should people be taking advantage of if it's not as obvious?
Well, I hope that they are very obvious. Basically, when you're on the map interface when you're collecting data, you're going to notice that there's, I think there's 4 controls, one for showing your current location, another one for actually zooming into a level which would show all of the records that are on your device for that particular form. You can also toggle the base map, the underlying imagery that you see, as well as change your what is it called? Basically, there's many ways that you could display the data on the map, either by the created location, the modified location, or another location widget within the form. So it's called location priority selection. So you'll see that there are those those controls now on the map view, which were not previously there.
And the map upgrades are only on iOS devices?
That's correct. So this release is an iOS 9 refresh and a map focus on the Apple devices.
Okay, and what about on the Manage tab? You said that there were some updates there as well?
Yeah, so the Manage actually had a complete rewrite as well. We dropped the library that we were using to display the data on the Manage side, and basically took the opportunity to rewrite that, clean some things up. You will notice that the map view on the Manage side also leverages the same mapping interface that we see on the Collect side, minus some of those other controls for zooming into your location.
Well, thank you, Tony, and I'll let you continue.
Okay, great. So last couple things, and then we'll jump into our development style and some other details. We were able to release the Form and User Groups API right at the end of the year. So it was a big component within the application, especially for larger groups with many users or many forms. So previously, to work with Form and User Groups, you had to do so through the interface, and now those have been extended to the API as well. So if you're looking for a streamlined way to manage form and user assignments, make sure you take a look at Form and User Groups. And for those who have some pretty deep integrations, you want to take a look at this well and see how you can add that into your integration. In addition to the Form and User Groups, that also went out at the very end of the year was a new widget called the Timer widget. Actually, the iForm apps just got released this week. Apple took some time off towards the end of the year, so the review process was a little slower than normal. But for those of you who have a need to basically record an elapsed time within your form, you should take a look at the Timer widget. So just to give you a little more detail, the way that this works is you can have a timer widget on the form, and just like a stopwatch, you can start and stop the timer. One of the neat things actually is that if you started a timer on your parent form and you actually went and started working into some of your subform layers, the timer will continue to actually keep track of elapsed time. So one scenario is you want to understand how long it takes somebody to work through an inspection or a set of forms. You can actually have a timer started on the parent, and then ultimately when they finally finish up on that parent, they can either stop the timer manually themselves, or if they actually complete the record by pressing done, we'll capture the elapsed time at that point as well. So I would encourage those who are trying to figure out how long it's taking their folks to do things in the field, take a look at the timer widget, because that could really help you out. So I'm going to pause for a minute and just see if there's any questions before we slide into our development style and philosophy. Barrett, do you have anything?
Yeah, Tony, we're going to launch a poll right now, almost to see if people are paying attention, but to see what their favorite release was of 2015. But if everyone can go ahead and put in their responses, you can select more than one option here. And I don't know if you can see the results, Tony, but right now the package builder is taking the lead.
That is awesome. Seth, kudos to you, my friend.
So all that hard work is definitely paying off.
No, I cannot see this. Right. And I just want to throw out, while we're still waiting for some folks to get their vote in, we didn't take the time to walk through each one of these features in great detail or show you, specific examples. Make sure you take a look at our knowledge base. Everything should be pretty well documented with samples. And if you certainly have any questions after this or want to, explore the functionality further, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
And just in agreement, or on top of that as well, the PDF that we're going to share with you, that'll have links to the help desk. And so if you wanted to start there and then go to the help desk to see the articles, that's another way that you could do that. I can share the results, so I'll do that quickly. This is where our package builder really took the lead, but it looks like the iForm updates with the map interface as well was pretty powerful in the storage filters.
Great. Well, thanks, Barrett.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. So that was 2015 at a high-level recap, and we're going to move next into basically our development style. So this is this is the quick review of some of the stuff we just talked about. So I'll read through these quickly, and then we'll jump into development philosophy. So for those who aren't familiar, which it sounds like most of you are, the form packages can be found under the Forms menu. And you do have basically two different modes, either building packages or importing packages. So you can just see where you could find that information within your account. The other thing is stored filters. So basically, if you haven't seen this yet, it's hidden in plain sight. On your data views page, you'll see a stored filters icon basically above the regular filters. So how you can use this is select the form that you want to build a stored filter for, and then click on that option. One of the neat things that we've added in, which is really not available in the regular filter, is the idea that you can add one-to-many conditions to further refine your results, as well as, like I mentioned before, the regular filter only allows you to filter at that form level, versus this new stored filters allows you to actually dig through the whole form structure and determine which fields you want to filter on, as well as be returned when the request is made. So this will actually walk through your entire parent-child structure and allow you to, basically pick what you want to be included. Again, this feeds into the table edit view, and some of the magic that the stored filter does for us is it creates this field grammar that you see in the screenshot. So you can certainly write the field grammar by hand. Most of us actually prefer to use this stored filter feature to create the field grammar we'd want to use in other integrations, like working with Clipfolio or any other tools which actually pull data from iFormBuilder. So that was just a quick recap that I forgot we had there. Now we're going to slide into how do we develop, and this has changed a little bit this year, and I just want to take some time to kind of walk through this and basically explain why we do what we do and how we do it. So we are formed into disciplined agile teams on the engineering side. And what this means is that we have folks who are basically focused on one-to-many components, and we own the whole entire release cycle. So from design to development to testing to deployment, these agile teams actually encompass everything. And what that allows us to do is actually not have any handoff issues. So we don't have development isolated from deployment and operations. We're all on the same page. So we understand our business objectives that we're trying to reach, and as well as the development challenges that we face. So these disciplined agile teams really allow us to stay on track and deliver, when we say we're going to deliver. We also are changing our mindset a little bit, and this is actually most apparent with iFormBuilder. So a microservice mindset, you may ask, what is that? And if we take a look at iFormBuilder, iFormBuilder is actually composed of what we would refer to as several microservices. So you have a service for building forms, you have a service for visualizing the data, there's a service for managing user permissions. And so the way we've designed it today is that iFormBuilder is all-encompassing of these services. The mindset moving forward would be to actually break these services down into their own standalone components. And you may ask, well, why are you doing that? The reason to do that is that when we separate and isolate these different components, we can actually assume less risk when we update something because we're not deploying all of iFormBuilder. We can truly just deploy updates to whatever microservice we've made changes to or added new features to. It also is basically allowing us to focus. So as our team grows and as the number of software services grows, we'll effectively have those teams only focused on certain components rather than the whole iFormBuilder entity. So if that doesn't make any sense, feel free to throw some questions in there. We'll take some time and answer those. And Barrett, just interrupt me if you get anything that you want to have some clarification on. Another thing is basically that we are continuously delivering software. And this basically means that we don't wait 6 months or 3 months or whatever it may be to roll the updates that we have. We try to really just deliver these things as soon as they're available. You can see that in our 12 release cycles that we had, or 12 deployments that we had last year. We're going to continue that pace and actually try to hopefully pick up that speed even further. So really this comes back to once a feature has been created, tested, and is ready to roll, it's going to go out the door. There's no reason to hold it back and let other things build on top of it and create further dependencies because ultimately something will come up where you have to deliver, and that's why we're trying to adopt this mindset of continuously delivering, because then we get better practice at doing it. There's less issues that arise from it. And ultimately, there's no reason to make you guys wait if we do have something ready for use. The other thing that we really adopt is basically this ears to the ground and eyes forward. And so what I mean by that is that we are constantly looking forward to the changing technology, or basically the way that technology is changing, and try to make sure that we're staying on the cutting edge of either the security side of things or new features or interfaces or technology in general. But we also try to listen to what's going on currently. We can't always be looking forward and forget the past. We try to take feedback that comes from the community as well as from folks that Barrett interacts with, and try to see how can we improve the existing components we have today, in addition to continue innovating and building out new features for tomorrow. So that's just the mentality of how we develop. Here's some reasons why we do this. I mentioned a few of these already, but we'll still take some time to walk through them. So the disciplined agile team promotes all time. Oh, you most certainly can, Barrett.
All right. So just a question that came in about how you developed is just, how do you choose the features to integrate into releases? Do you still use the Vote for Features site to drive development?
Yes, we still use the Vote for Features forum to drive development. That's not to say that everything there is basically what the development team is working on. So we try to pull from that, as well as, like I mentioned, look forward and try to innovate and basically build out new things as well. So that is still active. It's not the only thing that we react to or build our releases around.
And with that, Tony, what if somebody wanted a release, let's say, in a week or something? Is there anything our team can do?
Yeah, I would say reach out to us. Let us know what those needs look like. We can certainly come up with a game plan for getting those things implemented. So yeah, definitely reach out and we can carry on a conversation further.
All right, it's back to you, Tony.
All right, thanks, Barrett. So yeah, basically, why do we work this way? The small discipline teams promotes autonomy, and so effectively, once a team owns something or many things, they begin to really become that. So the idea is that we don't have handoffs. So we have these teams that basically know what they need to develop, they know when they need to release, and they understand the whole process. So they can effectively take a look at our plan for the year and just go to work. We don't have to micromanage and sit there and check in every single couple hours to find out what's going on. Those teams know what they have to do, and they know when they need to deliver. So we set them up for success and to basically own what they're working on. The reason we have this whole deliver quickly and try to introduce small changes is that, like you just mentioned, Barrett, business needs change quickly. Things come up. Maybe there's a project that you're trying to win, and you need 2 or 3 features or whatever it may be, an update on the iFormBuilder side. So by focusing on frequent and small releases, we're able to adapt and accommodate those needs that do come up. This mindset also helps us fight scope creep. So by trying to limit our releases and what goes into something, the chance of us missing a deadline is not as great as if we tried to plan out a 6-month or 1-year release, which is maybe a typical mindset from 10 years ago. So we found that by focusing and trying to keep things tiny, we're able to actually deliver on time much more frequently than we are if we have bigger release cycles. And the smaller services adapt faster. This is going back to our microservices mindset. So if we do break everything down into a smaller service, that service is more flexible. I mixed 2 words. Flexible and agile. So that way, if things come up, we need to plug something in or adjust something, we're able to just go and focus on that one small service and not really have to consider the full impact of iFormBuilder in its current state. So just for example, let's say we want to introduce new user roles. Well, the way it is today, if we want to go in and throw new user roles into the iFormBuilder application, we have to think about the ripple effect that it has for all those things that talk together. However, if user roles is its own microservice and basically has a defined API framework to work with, now all our other microservices are not impacted as long as those APIs remain the same. They still return the same data and accept the same inputs. So the idea is always about moving quickly and also having less risk. So just to reiterate some of those points, these isolated deployments result in fewer upgrade problems. If you go and take a look, back in 2010 with some longer release cycles, we had far more issues than we do today with these smaller focused release cycles. This also allows new ideas to be molded by users. And so even with the package builder that was rolled out this summer, we had ideas that popped up, things that we just didn't think of, that basically allows users to, provide influence and basically, create these, these new features allow them to become more useful and streamline those things. The other component to this is that releasing early and not waiting too long to just sit there and plan allows us to get early insight onto features which actually matter and find out ones that really don't matter. So we actually spend time on things that people care about, and we don't spend time on things that nobody really cares about. Why we're all here? What does 2016 bring to the table? There's a few bullet points here which are highlighted in bold. These are the things which we are expecting to make available in Q1 of this year, and the other ones which are not in bold are expected to be delivered somewhere in the Q2 area. So you may say, well, hey, look, there's only there's only 6 things here. What about all the other things that we want? These are the main components that we're trying to work on, and we will be pretty upset with ourselves if we don't meet these objectives and targets. And that's not to say that there won't be smaller little things that get introduced in these first 2 quarters as well. So the main thing that we have, which I think all of us have been waiting for a very long time, is a new form builder. And so this new form builder brings a lot to the table. We get out of Flash, we switch to an interface which actually allows us to build, well, it's not ideal, but we could still build forms on mobile devices, which previously wasn't an option unless you were on Android because of the Flash dependency. So in addition to changing technology, we've also reimagined the way that forms should be built. And I'll show you a few screenshots of what this interface looks like in just a few minutes. Another thing that we're working on is an acronym called SQRL. And what SQRL means or stands for is Secure, Quick, Reliable Login. And I'll show you a screenshot of what that can look like. But basically, the idea here is that, I mean, the web is a scary place. It gets scarier every day. And so the whole username and password mindset really is something that is evolving. And SQRL is a method of logging in which effectively ditches username and password. So you may have a bunch of questions there. We hope you do, and we'd be happy to answer those either online or offline. The next big component for Q1 is basically identity management. And identity management is our way of saying all these microservices and new technologies that we want to release, we want them to be accessible through a single login or a single identity. So rather than having a separate login, let's say for iFormBuilder and for Gnosis and for whatever other new technology we roll out over the years, the idea is that you'll have a single Zerion identity, and you'll have basically permissions and policies in place that allow you to access those certain softwares and determine the rights that you have within those softwares. What you don't see listed that goes with identity management is basically access control and permissions. So we don't expect to get that access control and permissions knocked out in the first 2 quarters of the year, but identity management is effectively the foundation for then continuing into that. We have actually this Android feature equality is something that is going on in Q1 and Q2. The reason it's not bolded is there's realistically, I don't think we will get to an equal Android client by the end of March. So the target is by the end of Q2, the Android client has equal feature set that the iOS client has to the best of our ability. There may be some hardwares that we've integrated with that maybe don't provide an Android SDK or other limitations, which we can't make it perfect, but we are placing strong emphasis on helping out and basically equalizing the Android client so that if you're building forms and you're rolling out to a group which has mixed devices, the experience should be as close to identical as possible. Another thing which has come up a number of times over the years is the idea of application logging. So this is useful from a compliance standpoint. You want to know who deleted what, on what day, at what time, and the impact that it had to your system. So in Q2, we're going to be placing emphasis on building out application logging, which will hook into all of these services that we provide, iFormBuilder, Gnosis, etc. And actually, as I did mention, we have access management down here, which will begin, focusing on the design and trying to put together some details in Q2. This is not something we expect to be available to the public in Q2. And then lastly, we have this concept called Zerion Marketplace. And this comes with a star because I believe that this is something that we'll continue to work on over the next several years. Knowing that this is a pretty big thing to try to tackle, we need to get a jump start on it this year. And so we'll begin working on the design and basically the rules and the ideas that we have to effectively allow folks to, let's say, take advantage of a package builder if they build a really awesome set of forms and they want to put it on the marketplace and either make that available for charge or for free to other groups, that you're able to do that. And one simple thing to think of is that this is like the Zerion App Store, if you will. So similar to what Apple and Google have done, we want to allow the developers and the folks who use our software to basically publish their forms and solutions on the marketplace and expand our reach that way. So with the quick glimpse into Q1 and Q2, I do want to take some time and walk through the new form builder interface. And so, shucks, I should have made these bigger, but hopefully you get an idea. This top screen here is what the new form menu will look like. So what you'll notice differently is that we have a search bar at the very top. And so for those groups who have, hundreds of forms, thousands of forms, finding the form that you want to work on now is not going to be a long, tedious scrolling process. You'll be able to just type in a few characters here, and this form list will actually just refine in real time. You don't have to click search or save or anything like that. Everything is done in real time. And what you see below are actually the different components which you could apply the filters to. So let's just say, for some reason, you want to look for all forms which have a special reference ID. And so you could actually select this reference ID 2 component and then type in text which refines this list of forms that only matches what you've typed in. So just to give you an idea of what this new form menu looks like, you can basically then select a form by just clicking on it. There's no reason to highlight a form and then click the load button that you would see at the current form builder. We try to reduce clicks as much as possible. We know that wastes time, and it's kind of silly in today's technology era to have to say, I want to actually save this or click this or open this. So everything is very responsive. Another notable change that you'll see is actually there's another tab here. So not only do we allow you to access your forms from the Form Builder menu, we give you the ability to access your option list. So if you're if you're thinking about how option lists are managed today, you actually first have to open a form. You have to find a form element that is the option list driven element, and then you can dig into the option list manager, select that list, and then edit your content. So we said that's way too many steps, and you have to dig way too deep to get to a simple option list if you want to add a new option or change something. So we basically brought this to the surface as well. You get to take advantage of all the filtering capability that is available for the forms. And again, you can change what criteria you want to filter by. So hopefully that saves a lot of time and energy for creating new lists or updating existing lists. So with that, I actually slide into the builder view. And so what you'll notice is this is one of two views that we are currently going to support. And so what you have here are basically your form inputs on the left-hand side, and you have your device view on the right-hand side. Now, this is a two-pane view, and what you'll notice is there's actually another option up here for a three-pane view, and I'll show that in the next slide. But the idea here is that you actually will, when creating a new form, punch out your form structure. So, if you think of a lead capture form, maybe we do a text, a date, email address, social security number, zip code. So it allows us to say click, 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 and build out our form structure. Once we have our general structure in place, we'd actually flip over to the input properties, and we begin to modify, the labels that we have here, any smart controls, whether those fields are required or not. So the mindset is let's reduce the number of clicks that have to happen, because currently when you build a form, you have to say add new input and then pick that input type. So really, multiple clicks to get to the idea of I want to add a zip code widget. Now you just simply add the zip code widget, and then you're on your way. We also have a devices drop-down menu here. So you'll find that there's many device styles that we support. And depending on your screen size, you can pick a bigger iPad view or maybe a smaller iPhone view if you're on a laptop, like I was. So the mindset here is flexibility. The original form, or the form builder of today, is not very flexible, and so we want to make sure that we don't carry over those habits into the new form builder. Just to jump down and show you what this three-pane view looks like. Basically, you still can punch out your form structure on the left-hand side, like I talked about previously, but on the right-hand side, you could have your input properties. So rather than having to toggle between these two, so fields and input properties, you can actually set yourself up so you can punch out structure, and then you can actually modify those input properties here without toggling between these two menus. If you take a look at the devices that are currently supported, we try to grab some common ones. I imagine that there will be more of these that get added over the years. But again, flexible. Focus here is that if you want to see how this could look on an iPad or iPhone or even some Android devices, then you have that option. Another thing which I think the folks who leverage page-level JavaScript will appreciate is that we're doing some syntax highlighting now on the page-level JavaScript menu. And so this is going to continue to improve, but what you'll see is I put in a simple function here which does some email validation, and we have some syntax highlighting that lets us see if we've made any errors or basically where our functions are defined, and should be helpful. It's a little more visual than what we currently have with just a big block of text. So actually, before I jump into Squirrel and Gnosis, Barrett, are there any questions from the new Form Builder review?
No, I think people are really, really excited about this, and of course are looking forward to being able to start using it. One question is just how does this impact those users who've been using our Form Builder as is the last couple of years? Do they have to switch over to the new version, or can they continue using the old one?
That is an excellent question. And so our intent here is that we're actually going to release the new Form Builder while continuing to support the old one. Our hope is that the new Form Builder will be so quickly adopted that no one even thinks about the old one any further. But to answer the question, we do intend to support both side by side. And so for those folks who are accustomed to the old one and just want to hold on to it, it will still be available for a period of time. There are plans to basically deprecate the feature altogether and remove it from the software. That will not happen this year. It will most likely happen in 2017. And we'll send out an announcement once we have a better idea of what that looks like.
All right, Tony, thank you very much for explaining that. Another question is, will we be able to print a form? It would be nice for reviewing forms during development.
Yeah, so I think that's something that should make it in. I can tell you with our first launch, that's not going to be an option that's available, but we certainly value that feedback. And I have talked with Seth, who's the main developer behind this feature, and he wants to do it himself. We're just trying to keep our laser focus on and make sure we can actually roll this thing out the door in the next month or so.
Great, and then
I would say not on launch day, but it should come.
Another quick question here is, are you allowing users to test the new form builder? Is that something that will be out and available to them, or are you waiting for the launch date?
That is another excellent question. We should give whoever's asking these questions a T-shirt or several T-shirts. But yes, we are actually looking for some beta testers. Our plan is actually to do an internal beta with our team, and then we would appreciate some folks who are interested to actually reach out to us for an external beta. Those details I'm still trying to put together this week or early next week. So if you can just drop us an email if you're interested, we'll add you to the consideration list, and we'll follow up with some more detail.
All right, Tony, that's it for now.
Okay, great. Well, I know we don't have too much time left, which is okay because we're getting towards the end here. So I did mention this thing called SQRL. Some folks call it Squirrel. Again, it's secure, quick, reliable login. What you can see here is actually a screenshot from our Gnosis admin page. And so, very traditional mindset, there's a username and password that can be used to log into the software. In addition, you actually have a QR code down below here. So the idea behind Squirrel is that what I can do is actually register a device. And once I've registered a device, there's some information that's exchanged between my device and the server. And now after I want to log into this application, rather than type in my username and password and have that sent over the web, I can scan this QR code with my device, and then the device that I use to scan the QR code will actually send a message to the server and tell the server to validate the QR code and to log me in if everything is good. So I don't have a way to demonstrate this live, but effectively what would happen is we would scan this QR code, and within a second or two, my web page would actually refresh on its own, and it would log me into the application. So not only is it faster than typing out your username and password, it's also safer because your password is actually never sent over the web to log into the application. So this is something that will roll out initially with Gnosis, but ultimately will find its way into our identity management service as well, so that all of our services would be able to take advantage of this method of login, maybe in addition to username and password. Any questions on that, Barrett?
Yes, well, I was talking, but I hadn't unmuted myself. Before we go on to the next slide, we do have a quick poll that I'd like to launch, and it's just after hearing about all these different releases and updates that we're adding, I'd like to see which ones people are most excited about. And so I've launched the poll here, and if you could just check off the ones that you're most excited about, that would be great. All right, so we have almost a little over 60%, and oh, people are voting quickly. All right, so we have 83% of the individuals who have voted, and
new form builder is going to be my guess there at 70%.
How much money are you putting on it?
Oh, I don't know. My whole Powerball ticket from last night.
Well, with 96% who have voted, let me just go ahead and close this poll and display it to everybody. I think you'll be happy with this, Tony.
Oh, 70%. There it is.
And Android feature equality is the next one. So we'll have to keep that into consideration as well, Tony.
Great. No, that's excellent. It's excellent feedback. I mean, it's the things we think are important as well. So glad to see that. Okay, well, I know we're running close to time here, so let's go ahead and cruise through, and we'll wrap things up. So basically, I want to just say a huge thanks to my entire team. You know, basically, none of this stuff is possible without everybody working together and having, you know, having ownership in this whole development process. There's two folks here that aren't listed, but they are also, you know, huge components of what we do, and that's Joe Vito and Penny Lau. There are two customer success reps, which I'm sure many of you have interacted with on chat or through the help desk. So, you know, huge thanks to everybody on this list, and Penny and Joe. You know, we truly can't do the things that we do without everybody on this team. So again, you know, give those guys a big round of applause because, yeah, they're truly the ones that make all this magic happen. I'd like to go ahead and wrap things up at this point. There's a number of references that you should, you know, take some time to explore. Barrett's done a pretty good job of trying to give, you know, links, and these will all be made available to you once the session wraps up. One thing I'd like to point out is, you know, because of the frequency of our releases, it's something that we encourage you to do is to subscribe to our release notes. And so basically, anytime we are about to roll out a new release, you'll get an email notification of that if you're subscribed to the forum. That way you can always be in the know about what we're working on and, you know, take a look to see if it's something you want to, you know, take advantage of. So I would encourage the subscription to the release notes, and you know, also take a look at the community forum. As somebody mentioned, you know, we still do you know, very much look at the Voting for Features forum and try to respond and update that as we can. And I guess at this point, I'll just open it up to any final questions.
All right, Tony. So right now, I don't see any other questions coming through. But if there are some, please go ahead and type them. And if you'd prefer to ask Tony over the over audio, then let me know, and I can give you audio rights, and we can do that. And Tony, this is where you put your theme song in here, and so.
Yeah, right. Well, and I just want to, you know, one, I guess, apologize, and then thank the group who did attend today. You know, we did have to postpone from last week. Barrett and I were both a bit under the weather, and I don't know if you would have wanted to listen through this presentation with me sounding like a frog. So thanks for your flexibility and for you know, taking the time to join us today. You know, we appreciate the feedback and the interaction. And if there's some things that don't sit well with you or you're actually really excited about, you know, we'd love to hear the feedback either way. So definitely reach out to us.
And Tony, before you let everyone go, there was another question, and it's, are you looking at any enhancements to the Esri widget in 2016?
You know, that's not something I would say which is a big ticket item to us. Is there a specific enhancement that we could look into?
I'm not sure. Rebecca, if you'd like, I can give you audio rights, and you can talk through what you're looking for with Tony, if that is a little bit easier. Okay, so Rebecca, at this time, you should be able to talk.
Thanks, Barrett. We've been using the Esri widget and interacting with the file GIS, and we're looking at trying to interact for scalability reasons with an enterprise SQL GIS environment, and we were wondering if you had any plans on trying to enhance the Esri widget to work in that type of an environment.
Okay, so maybe just so I can clarify for the others on the group, currently the Esri widget hooks into the ArcGIS Online platform, and you're hoping that we can actually have it speak to their enterprise software. Is that correct? That runs typically behind, you know, on your own infrastructure or in your own environment. Is that right?
Right. Right.
Okay. You know, I know there's been some discussion around this. I think, you know, honestly, it would be helpful if we could maybe take a look at your needs together and see what we could accomplish. I honestly am not super familiar with the ArcGIS Online and their enterprise service offerings and how much they differ. hopefully they're very similar, and something like that wouldn't be wouldn't be unattainable. So if you can just drop me an email or Barrett an email so we can maybe carry on this conversation in a little bit more detail, I think that would be a first, good next steps.
Absolutely, thank you.
So I
Okay,
do
well,
want to...
again, yep, go ahead. You can close it.
No, I was just going to thank everybody for attending today. We really appreciate all the time and effort that you take out of your day to spend with us, and we know that you are working, and hopefully this has been fruitful for you. And Tony, I'll let you do the rest.
Nope, you said it better than I could have. So again, thanks everybody, and any follow-up questions you have, just reach out to Barrett or myself.